Well, greetings all and welcome. This is a step-by-step install video for the Ironcloud Metalworks Swivel Seat Mount for the GMC Safari Chevy Astro van. This is the passenger side model that I'm showing here. Ironcloud Metalworks does make a swivel seat mount for the GMC Savannah Chevy Express vans as well as the Ford E-Series vans. I do not know anything about the install on those if they're as involved as this is, but for the Chevy Astro van GMC Safari, it's a little involved. It involves using an angle grinder and drilling out rivets and just taking a little bit of troubleshooting and ingenuity to be able to complete the install. So I'd say it's not for everybody. I was able to accomplish it. I would like to say I have some mechanical skills and a decent set of tools, so I was able to accomplish it in just a couple hours. You will need an angle grinder, a set of sockets and wrenches, a drill with multiple size drill bits. It would be helpful to have a center punch to center your drilling of the rivets, as well as possibly a chisel and pry bar and some other miscellaneous tools. So we're going to get into it. I did not show removing the seat from the floor of the Astro van. That is just 4 18mm nuts that you need to take off with either a wrench or a socket. And then once the seat is out, that's where we're going to start in this video. So let's jump right into it. Okay, I got my swivel seat in this morning, picked it up. This is the Ironcloud Metalworks Astro van passenger side swivel seat. It is made right here in the US of A. He was based in Utah. I think maybe he's in Oregon. Well, they ship from Oregon anyway. These are extremely heavy duty, very thick steel, and they are certified by the U.S. Department of Transportation. A lot of the cheap ones you find on Amazon are not. I wanted to have something that when it's in the forward position locked, it is going to be totally safe for my passenger. Do not want to risk anyone's safety due to my cheapness. So yeah, these are super heavy duty, nice good bearing there. So I'm going to show the install on this. It's a little involved, so I'll show you what it involves here. Okay, so unlike a lot of the cheaper alternatives, some of them you just bolt this whole base to a thin swivel and your seat is lifted up a little bit higher. This one keeps your seat at the factory height. The tricky part is you have to grind out and drill out these 4 heavy-duty rivets. These are of substantial size, thick metal rivets. So there's 4 of them, and according to the instructions, it can be a challenge, but it is doable, obviously. So the way to go about it is, so the end game is what you want to do is get this pedestal removed from these inner rails. This is the system here, like most seats standard. You pull this lever to the side and you can scoot yourself forward or backwards. So we want to retain that on the swivel. So in order to do that, we need to unbolt this whole base assembly and then again grind out these rivets to release that inner rail that is part of the sliding system from this base. So I'm going to go ahead and document this whole process because there's only a couple videos on YouTube and a lot of them they skip over some of the hardest steps. So thought I'd share it here. So I'm going to get started. First things first, take a 10mm socket and remove the 4 bolts that are attaching this whole assembly to the seat. So then we're just working with this and without the seat attached. Okay, start by getting these bolts out here. And I believe we're going to have to slide the seat, that would be backwards, to expose the other 2 bolts on the other end. Great, drop the bolt down in there. Okay, so I have the seat flipped over the other way. Had to slide this forward to expose the back 2 bolts. Get those out. Same 10mm bolt. One more on the other side. Okay, and that whole assembly comes loose from the seat. Okay, next step is to remove this crossbar that attaches the 2 sides together so we can work with the 2 sides independently. Looks like we've got to take this connector cable off here and yeah, we'll mess around with that, see if we can get down to the point to where we're just working with each side individually to work on grinding out these rivets. Okay, so this crossbar is connected with 2 10mm bolts as well. Got a nut on one side, so you'll need a wrench to hold the other side. Don't believe that we're going to need these bolts or this rail. I know we won't. Okay, so we have this cable that connects the two sides here. To unlock those, you just push in, slide this spring looking thing off, and then you're able to slide it out. And I'm going to put that back on there. Do the same over here just to get it out of the way. And remember that we need to reattach it. Set that aside somewhere safe so I don't lose it. Okay, I'm going to start on one here, see how this goes. I'm going to check the time, kind of do an elapsed time to see how long this really takes me. It's about 10:10 a.m. Gloves, ear, and eye protection. Let's see how this goes. Okay, one down. I'm going to have to drill the rest of that out. Can't even see where it is. It ground it nice and smooth, so that may prove to be a problem. Probably be best to remove this spring as well. Okay, we're going to see if we can do some drilling here to drill these rivets out. I'm going to start with a slightly smaller bit than the actual rivet itself. And my grind marks here are kind of hiding the exact position of two of them. I was able to grind these clean enough to where I can actually see the round rivet there. So I'll start with the easy one. I'll be inhibited a little bit by this bracket here, which is not removable. So yeah, again, not the easiest thing here. You can kind of see a slight outline of the rivet here, so. All right, I don't know how well we can show this on camera here, but I was able to drill into the rivet from the top, and I can take a screwdriver and just pop it out. Fell in the rail there, but first rivet out. That wasn't too bad. Of course, I think the ones on the ends are going to be the easiest, but we'll work on the next one in, see how well that goes. Yeah, it just takes a little bit of drilling, takes a little bit of time to get into that rivet, and then I had to hit that with a sledgehammer and a screwdriver from the other side to pop it out, and I don't think I'll be able to do that on these inner ones. I don't know, I'm not seeing a way to fully slide this track all the way off. So yeah, I don't know how I'm going to get to that inner one. I'll just have to completely drill it out. Don't know. Okay, I think I'm through the rivet, but again, it's hidden in this track here. I don't know if there's a way. I'm going to double check the instructions to see if there's a way we can remove this black portion of the rail there. There's got to be. Okay, so I've drilled through the entire rivet here, the smaller size bit. I'm going to step it up to a bit that is the size of the rivet. Try out a bigger drill here. Okay, that did it. I know what size drill to use, but I think starting with the smaller one is the way to go. That rivet is stuck in there now. To work on getting those out, maybe by sliding this forward and back. Definitely don't want that stuck in there. Yeah, I don't think I got it out, but I'm going to continue to drill all these out, and then I'll have to work on shaking them out of there. I don't want those stuck in there to jam things up in the future. I might just go with the bigger drill to start with. Just barely see the outline of the rivet in my grind marks, so I can get this drill centered. Okay, that was good. I'll have to look up what size bit this is. This is about perfect. Still not getting those rivets to shake out. There's a little roller that kind of blocks the passageway. So I'll get this other one done and oh, there it is. Got one of them out. So anyway, I got one more. This back one's a little bit of a pain. You got this bracket right in the way. To get a drill in there. Have to kind of go at an angle. But the bottom is exposed on this one, so I could partially drill it, pry it out. Yeah, definitely kind of a pain. Takes some ingenuity and patience. That's thick metal, I can't bend that out of the way, and I wouldn't want to. Actually, that is just the bracket for the center connector. Well, we're not using this base at all. So yeah, I could technically bang that out of the way. Let me see if I can do that with a sledgehammer. Yeah, just took a little 3-pound sledge to that bracket. That should help me get in there better. Still in the way, but better. I mean, I could grind it out, I guess. Let me do that. Okay, so I just took my angle grinder and grinded that bracket that connects these two pieces with that center bar. This is not going to be used at all, so that gives me a little bit more room to get this drill straight up and down here. Need a punch, center punch. Let's see if I have one. Okay, got that started with a smaller bit. That'll help me get this one centered better. There it is. That popped right off. The rivet is still kind of in there. See if I can punch that out. Just continue to drill it. Yeah, just going to drill it out a little more. There we go. Okay, so that wasn't so bad. That's just one side. I got to do the other side. And that took me about 20 minutes. Not too bad. So I'm not done here. I'm going to have to fish out the one center rivet that's still jiggling in there. And then I need to drill these out to a 5/16 hole. This one and this one. These two center ones are not going to be used. Okay, so this is a 9/32 bit, and it seems like it's the perfect size to drill these rivets out. But it is much easier going in with a smaller bit just to get a pilot hole started. It's much easier to center a smaller bit than the big one. So starting on the easy one here. Oh yeah, probably should grind these first. You know, I'm going to try doing it without grinding them. Put this to the test, see if you can actually accomplish this without an angle grinder. You drain a little bit more metal, but yeah, you don't even need to use an angle grinder. Probably makes it a little easier. I'm just going to drill them all out. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. I'm going to use the angle grinder to cut this bracket off. Just makes access to that rivet much easier with the drill. Okay, yeah, with that bracket ground off there, it just gives me a little bit more room to get the drill in. Okay, got a little pilot hole drilled. Okay, now to do the back one here. We'll be done. Yeah, let's see if we can get this off of there. Okay, so I have both rails removed from the pedestal here and have them on the table. Let's see, how would these go? Don't know what side is what. We'll figure that out in a minute. I do have one rivet stuck in this one, and I believe a couple in this one. And this track actually came out on me. So it does have instructions on how to fully remove these and reassemble them. Got these roller wheels inside that ride on this track. But you've got to make sure that they're positioned right with these two detents on the inside. So I am going to flip this over here, ensure that I've got all my rivets removed, and I do. And then I need to get this reinstalled in there. So I'm going to try to get the metal shavings out of there. There's a little bit of grease on the wheels, so we should be good. And I believe we want to go with one end first. I'm doing that the wrong way. It should be like that. And then I've got to squeeze this lever in. Yeah, and that wheel is not sliding forward like it should. Try to slide it up on the rail a little bit further first, not let it slide back. Maybe a screwdriver to help push that in. I could remove this spring to make this a little easier so I don't have to squeeze this at the same time, but let's see if I can just shove that in there. Okay, I believe that's where I want that. Then I gotta make sure I get this in properly. Wheel goes, these bearings go against this track here. I think this is where it's going to get a little tricky. Maybe I have to slide this all the way forward first. There we go, it's in there. Okay, and then I think when I slide it, doesn't feel right, it feels tight. I'm going to double check my instructions. I'm going to look at this one here. Yeah, you want to have the rollers on the outside of these two detents, so I think I'm good. I'm just going to kind of match the other side because this one didn't come apart on me. This one seems like it needs to go in further on this side. Okay, I think I have these set up right. I got those rollers in there. Rivet pieces are all removed from the inside, so I think we're good to go. Okay, so now what needs to happen is I need to drill out the two end holes to 5/16. And I was a little off center when I was drilling the rivets out, so I'm hoping that's not an issue. This one's way off to the side, and that was due to that bracket being in the way. So I'm hoping I don't have a problem with that, but I'm going to try to drill those out to the 5/16. To do that, I am just going to slide it so the track is exposed one way there, and then I'll slide it out the other way to drill the other hole. Get my gloves back on. Hey, this is where a vise would come in handy, but I don't have one. So I'm going to try drilling from the top here, so see how that goes. Okay, not too bad. Again, I'll have to slide the track out the other way so that end is exposed. Okay, got that other end exposed. Drill that 5/16 hole. Did a lot better on this rail. My original holes were centered. So I believe I'm going to need to drop the bolt in before I expose the other side, so I might as well do that now. Double check if it needs a washer. Okay, so the instructions kind of skip right over inserting these bolts, but you have to extend it to where you can actually get the bolt in there. There's not enough room for a washer, so I'm assuming there's no washer involved on that. And if these bolt heads were just a little bit bigger, they'd catch on those rails. I don't know how I'm going to get a wrench on that to keep that from wanting to spin when I put the nut on the other side. So maybe jamming a flathead screwdriver in there is going to be the trick. So then you have to push it back in to expose the other one, get the bolt in the other side. So the end product is that you have both of those bolts in there. They will not want to fall out. There's not enough room if you flip it upside down. But when we get ready to install this on the base, those bolts will be ready to go. So I'm going to work on getting the other one done here. Got to drill out these holes. And again, on this one, did not center the drill very well. A little concerned this one is so far off, but we'll see how it mounts. So again, got to give this a squeeze. The instructions show taking this spring off to make this easier, but I'm going to try to do it without doing that. Just avoid the process of having to reinstall that 5/16 hole here. It's already done. Then give this a squeeze to slide the track back out the other end to expose that hole. That's my hole that's quite off there, but I think it's going to work. It's actually going to make it tough to get that bolt head in there. That may prove to be a problem. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure your holes are good and centered. Otherwise you're going to run into the problem I have. My hole is so far off that bolt won't fully seat in there. So I'm going to just have to try to elongate that hole by just working the drill back and forth, not make it too big to where the head actually falls through. But that's the one problem I've encountered so far. Otherwise, it's going smooth. It just takes time. Yeah, that's going to be a problem, I think. Shoot. Ay. I'm going to have to work at this a little bit. Still got a little piece of the rivet in there. I'm going to take the grinder to this side and see if we can pop that out. That'll expose the rest of that hole without drilling. Okay, so I did take a grinder. There's a little piece of the rivet still stuck in there, and then that actually expose the factory hole there, which I think will help me center my drill in there a little bit to get the hole where I want. And hopefully it being elongated like that won't be a problem. Okay, yeah, I was able to drill it out just enough to where that bolt sits flat. I'm a little worried there, but I think that's going to be okay. Okay, I'm going to try to get all my metal shavings out of there. Get these bolts set in. So one there. Squeeze this. Slide the track through to expose the other side. I drill that one already. Yeah. That bolt actually, nope, that one spins too. Yeah, we're going to see how that works. Okay, I think we're done messing around with these things. I think the next step is getting these rebolted back on to the base of the seat, and then we mount the whole seat with these tracks on it onto the swivel base. So let's go over to the seat, see if we can do that. Okay, so it looks like the next step, according to the instructions, are getting these loosely bolted to the seat here. Just going by the instructions, the pictures, they do have a lot of photos in the printed instructions, and when I say printed, it's online. It doesn't come with any printed instructions, but it gives you a QR code to scan and the instructions come right up. So it looks like you start by just loosely getting these bolts started here. So these are, you've got a little bit of wiggle room when you go to install this whole assembly, the seat with the tracks to the actual swivel mount. And pardon my shadow here, it's that time of day. It's hard to get a good shot without a shadow in it, but doing our best. Quite a bit of thread on those, so I'm going to crank them down to where there's still some jiggle, but I won't have to spend too much time finishing off the tightening once it's flipped over. Yeah, I think about like that. That's loosely to me. Okay, repeat for the other side here. Again, I'm just looking at the pictures and the instructions to make sure I have facing the right way. Obviously, this lever, like factory setup, was always up front here. So hopefully that's all in accordance. That has a slotted hole on the front, so you've got a little bit of wiggle room here. And I've got my track here pushed too far back, so I'll have to release that lever, slide that up so it exposes the bottom hole there. I'm gonna take my socket and get that started. Okay, this is going smoother than I expected. I thought I was going to spend a lot more time on the rivets. The only real issue I had was that one that was a little off center, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. Okay, so those are in. Then it wants us to reassemble the spring, and then we've got to get these aligned so they're both in the same position. And it looks like I'm already there. If I push that back, drop into the slot there. This is in between slots. Yeah, I think we're equal there, both sides. So I'm going to get that spring assembly, get that rehooked up, and then we'll be ready to get this whole thing on the swivel. So we got our spring pieces that I removed. This one goes here to put tension on that one, and then we've got our connector piece here. And again, just give these a little squeeze. You can slide that spring looking thing down, and then just do the reverse. That slides up and locks it in there. Took me a second to stare at that and figure out how those work. But so now I pull this lever, it should release both sides. So we're looking good there. Now we got to get this thing onto the swivel mount. I think I'll just do it right here, bring it over, see if we can make this happen. Okay, I think I'm going to try to do this on my work table here. So I'm going to grab the seat and get it put here. Again, I had to refer to the instructions. It looks like this is the front, and it makes sense. That's the way the labels are all. You know, if you were looking at it from this way, you'd be able to read everything, not upside down. Okay, I'm going to start by getting everything installed on the swivel base. So this is where you install the lever that you pull to release the swivel. And I gotta make sure I've got it the right way. I'm not sure which way is forward. I think that is, yeah, that is backwards. That is facing forward. So this would be the front here. Make sure I get this right. And it comes with a little lock that you can ensure that it stays in the forward position. So I'll flip this up and see how that goes. Okay, so I think I'm understanding how this works. It seems to be a little funny. Oh, I see. You get these just to the right spot to where when you pull this bolt out, it will catch on this inner bracket here, so it doesn't want to flop around. Yeah, so the idea is that you jam these two nuts together so you have a little stopper. When you unscrew this from this threaded like rivet nut here, that's part of the base, you undo it, and then the bolt won't fully pull out, but will pull out far enough to clear that. So you need to kind of hold that when you swivel, apparently. Okay, the wind is picking up out here. Hope the audio stays okay, but now it's time to get the seat over onto this. Yeah, I think we just want to set it right on top, and then we can get those nuts and washers onto the bottom there. We should be able to get those bolts lined up to these holes. Look at that, second try. Not too bad. Okay, so I can't get the best camera angle on this, but these are the bolts here that I installed on those rails, and they are coming through there. So these rails actually have a little bit of an arc to them, but it looks like this swivel is designed to kind of compensate for that. These holes in the swivel base are a little elongated, so you have some wiggle room. So I'm going to check the instructions. I think the next step is just to get our washers and nut on there. It comes with, looks like some extra washers and some nylock nuts. Okay, I am going to have to lift this back off. You do need to have washers on the top. One washer on the top side on the front, and then because of that arc, you use two washers on the back to kind of lift it up a little higher because of that arc. So I think I can do that right here. So two washers in the back, one washer in front. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Yep, instructions are unclear on if you need a washer in the front on the top or if it goes on the bottom. The pictures are just at the right angle to where you can't see if there's a washer below the nut there. I'd assume yes on the bottom. They give you just enough to where you can stack the two on top in the back, and that would leave one to go on the bottom as well. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to leave no washers on top in the front, just a washer on the bottom. Get the nuts on. And then when it comes to that problem of these bolts wanting to spin and you can't get a wrench on top, they recommend as you're tightening it, you just stick a crowbar, pry bar, or flathead screwdriver in there to kind of put pressure on it, and the pressure, the tension from you prying it up while you tighten the nut will keep it from spinning, hopefully. Okay, I repeated the same thing on the other side with getting those two washers stacked in the back, no washer in front on top. And then I'm going to use the remaining washers. That leaves us 4 left over, so I'm assuming one on the bottom with the nylock nut. And again, those bolts are going to want to spin on you, so he recommends putting tension on them with the pry bar. Well, I'm going to get them all started, so I don't have to fiddle with that. You can get a finger in there to keep them from wanting to push up while you get the nut started. But because they're nylocks, they're going to tighten up really quick. So yeah, we're going to see how this goes. Okay, so it's a 1/2 inch socket on those. And again, you can't get a wrench on the top, so I'm going to start by trying to wedge a flathead screwdriver in the track there to get him started. And then I'll try his trick with putting tension on it. I think this is going to work here. I'm going to tighten these loosely as well because we still have our other bolts that are attaching the rails to the seat that we need to tighten up once everything's lined up. It says once you have everything kind of loosely set, to make sure that everything is slid back as far as possible. The holes on the swivel seat are a little elongated, so you're able to kind of push it forward and backward just a little bit. You got a little wiggle room. So I'm going to loosen this one. It went too tight. Do that to all four, and then yeah, we'll get our bolts up top here on the actual seat tightened up. We should be good to cinch everything down. All right, so the next step, these are all loosely tightened on here. Got a little bit of wiggle to them. And he says on the instructions to make sure that these tracks are slid all the way back because these holes in the base are elongated. So I'm going to take my little 3-pound sledge, just give it a little tappy. Looks like they're seated all the way back. Now I can go ahead and tighten these up. So I'm finding the best method to tighten these bolts. I know it's really hard to see with this bad angle, but I'm just taking a flathead screwdriver in the track, and I could kind of wedge it between the side of the rail and the bolt head there. And it's just enough to keep it spinning while I get a socket on the bottom and get it tightened up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Kind of hard to show that. My arms are going to go right in front of the camera. See if I can get out of the way. Yeah, that's fine. They're not wanting to spin. So I'm going to get those nice and tight, work my way all the way around with the same method. And then the final step will be to tighten the bolts that are going into the seat from the rails there. Okay, so the final step is to go back with your 10mm socket. Tighten down your bolts that are attaching the rails to the actual seat itself. Okay, so I went ahead and got all the bolts, the 10mm bolts that are going into the actual seat through the rails tight, and now I'm going to finish off. I'm not sure what order you're supposed to do that or if it matters, but did that first, and now I'm going in and tightening all these gold bolts that go to the actual swivel mount. And that'll be it. We'll test fit it in the van, make sure it spins around. I'm going to double check all these bolts. Okay, you'll have to pardon the mess in the van here. Still under construction, so I got a lot of extra tools and junk in here, trash. But we got a clear spot. The way these seats mount, there's just 4 bolts coming out of the floor with an 18mm nut on it. So we'll get it set in here, get it loosely bolted down in case I have to pull it back out, see if it slides back and forth as it should, and then see if it swivels. It makes the whole seat assembly quite a bit heavier than stock. This is a very heavy-duty mount. I'm going to set it in there first, get it somewhat lined up, see if we could drop it on those bolts. There it is. Okay, before I even put those nuts on, I'm going to see, well, yeah, I'm going to see if it actually slides back and forth. But yeah, I dropped it right on there. I'm going to sit in the seat, see if I can get it to actually slide forward and backward as it should. Okay, moment of truth. So the factory slide back and forth seems to be working. Locks into place. Then we have our little lever here. You make sure we pull that nut out. That locks us into place. And then, yeah. Okay, so the way this works is you can swivel it from the outside. I'm going to kind of have to get out of your way here. Okay, so the way this works, to be able to swivel it fully around, you have to pull the adjuster to get the seat back all the way forward, and then you can supposedly swivel it and it'll clear this rail here. We'll find out. Pull our little lever there. Oh, and it goes real smooth. There it is, all the way around. And then we get a few positions here. Let me reposition the camera. Okay, so it is spun fully around. We should be able to recline a little bit. Yeah, then we can take our adjuster and we get a position that's kind of at an angle out towards the door. We get a position that is kind of at an angle towards the inside, which will be perfect for when I have my table set up here. Actually, we might as well just show you. This was all part of the plan here. Yeah, so that gets me at a nice angle where I can sit at my table, swing that out of the way, be able to get up out of the seat, grab the little adjuster here. Gonna have to get used to where that is. Locks in the directly back position, then supposedly it goes 90 as well. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but I've got my water bottle here, so it's kind of in the way. Or you could go 90. I could see the 90 facing out the door, although I can't spin all the way around this way. I'd have to do it and then get back in. So it does lock at a 90 there. If I did want to be totally facing out the side door, which I could see a use for that. I could almost prop my feet up on the side door pocket there. And then one more position and I'm fully around to the front, I believe. There we go. Yeah, spin all the way around there. So I'd say I'm ready to bolt it down to the floor completely. Yeah, you know, if I didn't have my water bottle in between the two front seats, I could actually sit in it, pull my legs up and spin totally around. But as it stands, I'll be doing it probably while I'm not sitting in it anyway. So all the way around there, there's that little angled position. And fully around, then I can recline totally back like that. Yeah, I think that's gonna work out. I'm gonna get the bolts down onto the floor. We'll be totally installed. That wasn't too bad. Let me look at the time here. It is 12 o'clock. I started at 10:10. I am moving cameras around, so that takes a little bit of extra time. So I'd say about 2 hours to get this installed. Definitely needs some mechanical ability. A shop would help. I was doing it with limited tools. A punch and a chisel would probably help getting those rivets out. But overall, I would definitely say it's not for the non-mechanical type person. It takes a little fiddling with getting those rivets out and pretty much the whole thing. But I think it's a well-built swivel, so I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Okay, so that's it for the install. I know this was a long one, but I just wanted to show every step in detail. I hope it was helpful, and I wish you the best on your install of your Ironcloud Metalworks swivel seat for your Astro van.